Well, hello. Welcome to Open Range, and my name is Patrick Hart. Um, I get to guest host this week. Hopefully, we have a reoccurring spot. I have a couple of amazing people with me today. But first off, I want to rip off that Band-Aid and right away ask you guys that, and thank you for listening to Democratic show today on Open Range. And I want to start with who am I? So I'm in front of you. I'm a North Dakota small town boy, Class B, grew up on a farm. I'm a contractor here in Bismarck, and I'm usually dirty. I'm a lot more comfortable in a hoodie and a ball cap than a suit and tie. And yeah, I'm a job creator here locally. And I think with the Democrats, I've been involved with the Democrats for over a decade. I like to refer to myself as a super volunteer, having to work on the district level, on the statewide level. I've been a two-term statewide candidate, and I'm just really excited to be able to get to serve my community. So why TV? Why are we here? Big question on all your minds. You used to have seen Gary Emeneth and Friends. And I think local media here in North Dakota does a really good job of covering the Republican supermajority in the state. I think nationally, the Republican media does a really great job of telling you who they want to think we are. And I don't necessarily think they're hitting the ball in the right spot. They're not hitting the nail on the head. So I want to take the time to introduce some of my friends, to have a couple conversations that maybe you haven't heard before, and to get a different slant on things. So with that, I want to introduce a couple of my good friends. I'm sitting here with Trygve Hammer, who is our 2026 U.S. House candidate, and my good friend Jamie Selzler, who's a DNC committee rep. Now, I gave you guys those titles, but Trygve, do you want to tell us who you are really quick?
All right, so I'm the Democrat in this race for U.S. House. I'm also the only candidate for U.S. House in this race who's never fired anything except expert on the rifle and pistol. I have a dirty hard hat from the oil field working on workover rigs. I've been a freight rail conductor, did a lot of stuff, but before that I was Navy nuclear power, and then I went to the Naval Academy, graduated from there, was a Marine Corps helicopter pilot, forward air controller, and went to Iraq in 2003 as an infantry officer. So I got a vast array of experience. I've also been a high school teacher, grade 7 to 12 science. So been on more than one battlefield, and and I promised I would be back on the ballot when I was running in 2022 for PSC, and then I was last time running against Julie Fedorchak, and that's what I'm doing again now.
Jamie, what brings you to the table here? What's your background?
Not nearly as cool as Trygve. I can't call myself a Marine. I'm friends with one, which is really great. So I am the DNC National Committee man for North Dakota, which means that I am one of 440 members of the Democratic National Committee nationally. North Dakota has 4 of them there. I'm one of them. At the DNC, I sit on the Rules and Bylaws Committee, which makes the rules for how the presidential nominees are selected. And it's a pretty cool opportunity. I've been involved in North Dakota politics since I was 15 years old. I'm a former Republican. I used to be state chairman of the North Dakota College Republicans. I was a founder of the North Dakota Teenage Republicans. I worked for Kevin Kramer when he first ran for Congress. I worked for Ed Schaefer when he ran for governor. I was on the executive committee. I was very active as a young Republican, and didn't switch parties. I left the Republican Party, and then was an independent, and eventually got involved with the Democratic Party, where I eventually became the executive director, which is essentially the CEO of the Democratic-NPL Party in North Dakota. During all that time, I was working for Amazon in North Dakota and throughout the world, London, Seattle, and beyond. I was an executive at Amazon for almost 20 years, and now I've been back in North Dakota for about 5 years, where I own a small business that does coaching and consulting, and active in trying to make North Dakota a bit more balanced than it has been.
Well, that's very fair. Well, I'll tell you guys, I want to talk about a couple things in this first segment. The first one I want to touch on is kind of the purpose of the show. Again, we're in a Republican area over here in Bismarck, although I think we do have a lot of Democratic base and support here and west. But, the purpose of the show, the purpose of us coming on here today is maybe to communicate our message. So we have very different backgrounds. Trygve, you've served, I've served our state. Jamie, you've been national and international. I hear all the time about a message that the Democrats are giving or not giving. And I guess I'd want to ask you guys, what's the message that we need to communicate? What's the missing link?
Well, what I'm finding out on the campaign trail is what we need to be are the people who will accept every invitation and talk to anybody. And when we start doing that, we see we have a lot more in common than our differences. So, I think the message sometimes, it's not a left or a right. It's hey, there's a lot of people who are feeling left behind, and there seems to be another class of people who are getting way ahead. And who's going to be our voice? And that's what we have to step back into. Like I've been in 3 labor unions, and I want to look out for the working people. And that's not a left or right thing. That's more of an up and down thing.
Jamie, any thoughts?
I think Democrats nationally and in the past have not done a good job communicating with everyone. I think we often talk just to our own base. We don't often enough go on networks like Beck or on some of the talk radio that is out there. And so we have sort of sat by and allowed a picture to be painted of us that isn't quite accurate. And we often help create that picture. So Democrats are really good about running after squirrels and shiny things, that maybe there's some cultural issue that Democrats want to make sure that we're defending everyone's rights. So we get really caught up on a specific issue about this thing or that thing, and let someone else take the narrative about the core issues, things like how much is gas and how much is milk, and can you send your kids to a school that's good? Can you afford that? You and I had a conversation about healthcare right before we started. Like, can you afford the healthcare that you need to make sure that you stay healthy as you get older? Those are core issues that Democrats care about, and we have not always talked about them enough with the people who need to hear it. And I think if those who are watching or curious listen with an open mind, they will discover that a lot of what Trygve believes are things that they believe, or that their local Democratic-NPL candidate for the legislature believes. But you just have to sort of open your mind and listen. And that goes both ways. We need to be listening to others as well.
One thing that I have noticed in the feedback that I've gotten when I talk to my Republican neighbors, my friends, my father-in-law, quite honestly, my business partner, is that I don't get involved in a lot of the headlines, the bickering. When I talk about my politics, it's on how to kind of fix society for as many people as we can. Really quick, I'll tell you the main thing that brings me to the left side of the aisle is I feel like when businesses get so big, they start to lose consideration of the effects of their decisions on society. They maybe push their employees too hard. They give them a substandard wage in the name of profits. They potentially look at the environment in more terms of how can we harvest and use these materials, and not necessarily the effects on the land. And also, pushing and squeezing their vendors. And I think at some point, and I don't know if that's 50 people or 100 or 500, but at some point, maybe there needs to be some regulations so that the people that aren't at the table have a voice. And that's the number one thing that brings me to the left. Do you guys have what's your number one? What brings you to the left side of the aisle?
I don't even really think left and right usually.
Okay.
I tell the story of my grandfather, whose campaign card said, on the back of it said, vote for these 3 progressive Republican men. So he was a Republican in the state legislature, but NPL. So he was a progressive. And I think we get too busy with these labels sometimes. So when I went into the Republican convention and down in our meeting we had in Edgeley, and we're going to have another one here on May 15th, start talking to folks and they're seeing the same thing, not from a left-right perspective, but from that, they feel like a big entity with a lot of money can come into North Dakota and roll over every person, every town, every township, every county, and get what they want. And they feel voiceless because our current federal delegation won't talk to them. And our current federal delegation doesn't seem to want to be a voice for them in Washington, D.C. either. They'll rubber stamp everything.
Sure.
You know, I have a ton of respect for Ed Schaefer when he was governor and worked for him. But one of the things that happens near, especially the end of the Schaefer administration and then into the Hoeven years, was this focus on economic development, which was great. The problem is they were trying to bring employers to North Dakota rather than help employers who are already here grow. And often what they were doing is they would advertise North Dakota as a low-wage state.
Oh.
Come here because it will cost you the least amount of money because our employees are the cheapest. And that is why I switched parties, because jobs were not paying enough and most of my friends were leaving North Dakota. And this mentality that come to North Dakota for low wages, that creates this culture of our people just not making enough money, not making the same amount that they would make if they were somewhere else. And for a long time, we used our low cost of living as a reason for that. Of course, you can make less here because it costs less to live. But that's not actually true. The cost of living in North Dakota is not that much less than anywhere else. And so I became a Democrat, and I'm still a Democrat, because I don't hear anyone on the Republican side speaking out for the person who's like punching a clock every day, the people who are living paycheck to paycheck. There's not enough people speaking for them. The Democratic-NPL speaks for them. Folks like Trygve are doing his best to speak for them. Not enough Republicans are. And my hope is that by Democrats growing in North Dakota, gaining more power, maybe it'll force the Republicans to have these conversations.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming here today, and thanks for giving me that input. I guess we'll catch you guys after the next commercial break.
Stop out to our facility, Highway 22 South. Let us build a truck for you.
Find relief for what ails you at Steepney Tea Apothecary. Teas, supplements, tinctures, and more. Formulated to fight whatever has you down. We're Bismarck Mandan's favorite place to find delicious, natural, and easy ways to alleviate symptoms brought on by anything from colds to cancer. Brew a better you at Steepney Tea Apothecary. Steepney products may cause side effects, including but not limited to improved mood, deeper sleep, enhanced hydration, renewed sense of smell, increased energy levels, superior balance, boosted immunity, proper digestion, restored sense of calm, and a delightful smelling home.
Welcome to Arrowhead Cleaners. Newly renovated, modernized, and ready to make your cleaning needs hassle-free. From commercial and residential wash and fold laundry services to the latest in professional dry cleaning techniques, we are dedicated to your unique needs, offering alterations, fabrications, and even custom hat making. So whether you're a busy professional, a family on the go, or even a rodeo champion, Arrowhead Cleaners is here to take your things from messed up to dressed up. Now celebrating our 64th year in Arrowhead Plaza.
Welcome to Radiant Retreat Tanning and Spa in Mandan, where a relaxing spa experience meets the latest in healing innovations. Take total control of your massage in our Hydro Massage Bed. Experience whole body healing in our Zero Body Cryo Bed. Let our salt sauna and halo generator restore your respiratory and skin health. And of course, tailored tanning will keep you looking as good as you feel. Discover your best self at Radiant Retreat, 1307 First Street Northeast, Mandan.
Are you dealing with arthritis, nerve and back pain, dry skin, or superficial wounds, but found no relief? Give Stewart's Natural Health a try. For over 4 decades, Stewart's Natural Health has been helping people and animals with herbal and natural oil lotions, ointments, and creams with a mission to help you relieve pain and feel your best using the power of nature. Discover the safe, drug-free solution to your pain, guaranteed or your money back. Visit stewartsnatural.health today.
West River Equipment of Mandan is here to help you maintain peak productivity in your operation. As an authorized dealer for many high-quality equipment lines, we have the new and used equipment it takes to make your farming, ranching, or construction operation profitable and efficient. West River Equipment also has the parts on hand and the experienced technicians in our shop to get your equipment back in action fast. Find what you need at West River Equipment on Old Red Trail in Mandan.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. My name again is Patrick Hart. I'm joined by my good friends Trygve Hammer, running for U.S. House, and Jamie Selzler, longtime Democrat, DNC committee member. I guess I'd like to turn the table a little bit and start talking about the state of politics in North Dakota. I'll be Mr. Obvious, for lack of a better word, and say that North Dakotans, as North Dakota Democrats, don't have proportional representation. We have 13 elected officials. And we're obviously trying to get more. The supermajority in the House, in the Senate, in the Capitol Tower really gives, in my opinion, Republicans kind of everything they want. However, I keep hearing that everyone's upset with their government. So I can't really merge those two. So Trygve, really quick, you've been on the campaign trail now for 4 cycles in a row. What are you seeing from elected incumbents showing up and campaigning against you?
Well, right now they're not showing up, and that's the biggest thing going on with Republican incumbents, and definitely at the federal level, but our statewide candidates as well. And it was interesting that they weren't at the Republican convention, but they were in Minot that next Tuesday for a meeting out at the golf course, the country club. So they're kind of the country club Republicans. And so on the Democratic side, what I see is growth. And I see, so I ran in 2020, people would say, you definitely have my vote, but I won't take a yard sign. They were scared, kind of in hiding. And now some of those people are showing up at, meetings and protests. So, they're kind of coming out of the woodwork and finally brave enough to get out there. And that's what I've been pushing. And that's a small part of the reason why I've been talking to Republicans so often, is that, well, one, there's a lot of them in the state, if anyone hadn't noticed. And 2, they're not being heard, or they feel like they're not being heard by their congressional delegation and by their representatives in Bismarck. So we get to talking, we find what we have in common. And, so the Democratic side growing. And then on the Republican side, there's actually a 3-way split, I would say, in my race. There's folks who, I don't know where to put them, left or right, but they feel like I said, like the big entities can come in and they're just going to get permission to roll over everybody. And then there's there's the hardcore people who are going to vote R no matter what, so I'll talk to them, but won't do me any good. And then there's another part of them that feel like they expected Julie Fedorchak to be that voice, to stand up to, Trump's worst tendencies. Yeah. And they feel like if she had, she would have made Trump a better president this time around. So those folks are very disappointed in her. And I think all of them now are so just disappointed in everything that's going on around them, and just like the craziness, that they are willing to cross the aisle and vote for a Democrat who's not hooked to something crazy.
I want good schools, good roads, good education. Jamie, we have a Republican supermajority, and we're passing the biggest budget year over year by fiscal conservatives. How do we balance this?
Well, I think that you see in our congressional delegation, as an example, what happens when people have amassed so much power and have held it for so long that they feel entitled to it. You have Julie Fedorchak, who never does any town halls where anyone can show up. She does these telephone town halls where she gets to handpick the questions and the callers. You have John Hoeven, who almost in the past has never done these things. I'm not sure he's even in the state all that much anymore. I think that John Hoeven likes to just hang out in DC and do whatever the leadership tells him to do. And then you have Kevin Cramer, who for years, love him or hate him, you could always say, you know what, the one person who's going to show up and take the hard questions was going to be Kevin Cramer. That Kevin Cramer is not our senator anymore. That Kevin Cramer hasn't shown up in North Dakota in years. And so this is what happens when you amass so much power. You just don't think you have to be held accountable to people. Julie Fedorchak won't even have a debate with her primary opponent. She's scared to talk to someone who's in her own party for the benefit of her own party. And I don't know if that's someone that we want to see in Congress. in North Dakota, when it comes to the legislature, we really have three parties. You have Democrats, you have very conservative Republicans, and then you have sort of the moderate middle of the road Republicans, which are now becoming the minority party, even more so than the Democratic-NPL in the state. And I think, there's this famous quote that a guy who was in the legislature, Elliot Glassheim, used to always say, which was, a quote from the Greeks, which is absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we see that in Bismarck, where, to your point, the budgets are getting higher and higher and higher. Ongoing spending is getting higher and higher all the time. And for those who are under this maybe belief that I would maybe call a delusion that the Republican Party is about fiscal conservatism, let's look at the budgets in North Dakota. Look at the budgets in Washington, D.C. Look at the money being spent. I don't know any person who voted for Donald Trump who voted for him because they wanted more war and spending trillions of dollars outside of the United States. I don't know any Trump voter who wanted to do that, but that's what we've had nationally and in North Dakota.
Well, and to bring it back to engaging your constituents, Trygve, I know you did this event last year on a different date than me, but I went to the Bismarck Romeo Club, the retired old men eating out.
Yep.
And I'll call it a hostile room. I had to take questions for at least an hour with a microphone about all the things that I didn't want to talk about, and they did. And looking back at it, it was one of my most memorable, most engaging events.
Yep.
I was put on the spot. I did take those questions. And one of the questions I was really surprised about after talking about accountability for our kids in school is if I actually was a Democrat or if I was a Republican. And, again, I like the middle of the road. I like to get things done. But I really liked that event where I got to show up and be held into account and be questioned about my beliefs. Are you going off the beaten path to engage with non-Democrats this cycle?
I think I've engaged more with Republicans this cycle than I have with Democrats. I just happened to get into the Republican convention, helping a young fellow bring in some stuff, and started shaking hands in there and talking to folks. And like I said, we find these things we have in common. They want some trust busting done. They want these big money people held accountable. And
you spent more time at the Republican convention than Julie Fedorchak.
Well,
did.
exactly.
How about
She didn't
that?
get anywhere near it.
Yep.
And they also see this AI train coming down the line, and what's going to stand between them and that when it comes to labor. What kind of jobs is that going to take over, and that's going to increase the labor supply, so then wages go down. So we have to worry about what this new technology is going to do to the working folks, and they are worried about that, and they know that they need someone to look out for them. Right now, the labor unions are the front line on that. The Screen Actors Guild and the writers, when they struck, a lot of that was about AI, not being able to use an AI generated image of an actor in another role or use AI to write all the scripts. So, unions will continue to be part of the front line, but we need people in DC who are thinking about the working people.
Tell me really quick, you're a union member?
Yeah, I was a member of ND United as a teacher. I was the Airline Pilots Association when I was a regional airline pilot, and I was on in the SMART union when I was on the railroad.
Excellent. Jamie, got about 45 seconds. Thoughts on AI coming in, or do you want to save that for next segment?
Well, we can save for next segment. I just think that as folks are considering who they're going to vote for this next year, and they think about these issues they care about, they should, for a second, just to pretend, take the letter off the name and just listen to what they have to say and decide for yourself if that matters to you more than the party that they run for. And you might be surprised at how you feel.
I'll tell you, let's pick up on that just for a second. We're going to go into quick overtime. Down in Nebraska, we just had a good friend of ours, Jane Klebb, who is the ASDC chair. ASDC, if you guys don't know, is the Association of American Society of State Democratic Committees. Essentially, I call that the baby brand of the DNC, the chairs, the vice chairs, and the EDs. Down in Nebraska, Jane used to be chair. They don't have political party representation behind their district, House, and Senate candidates. Do you guys think that would change the landscape here in North Dakota?
I think there'd be way more progressives elected if there weren't if they weren't a party on the ballot, which is why Republicans in Bismarck have tried to put a party line for nonpartisan offices, because they think that they can just trick North Dakotans into voting for someone who's Republican. I think people are smarter than that, and I think many people aren't going to vote for someone just because of their party.
I would hope that people are able to do the due diligence. Do you think that people are capable of getting out of their Facebook feed and Googling candidates such as yourself?
I think they are. And I think another thing they see coming now in this next election, we're going to have an initiated measure that the state legislature keeps trying to, end the power of initiated measures or curb it. And people want to have that say, especially when they feel like their representatives aren't going to come and talk to them one-on-one or in a group. Then, they want to be able to have that say at the ballot box and make some of these decisions. And yeah, it's endlessly frustrating to see them trying to take that little bit of power away from you.
What I think is strange, and in the last cycles, we've seen efforts to curb initiated measure process. We've seen the dates slowly get earlier and earlier, so we can't, of course, go to the state fair and get signatures there. We've seen efforts to, I would say, buy elections. People like Julie Fedorchak, statewide incumbents, aren't able to go to convention or don't want to. They're skipping debates. They're going straight to the primary. And I feel like the elected representatives are limiting the voice of the people by not putting themselves out there. And we've seen it again and again and again. So who is the voice of the people?
I think we're seeing it's just one party who's doing it.
Appreciate that. We'll be back after this commercial break.
Base Fluke Trailers of Dickinson is a family-owned dealer with expert staff that know their products front to back. We stock over 150 units of all types and can custom order a trailer with the unique features and capabilities you require for brands you can trust. Our experienced service team is the reason we're also the best place to have your trailer customized or repaired. Count on Base Fluke Trailers of Dickinson to keep you hauling.
Come on in and experience small town hospitality and the personalized care that makes car buying a pleasure.
We know that every journey starts with the right car, whether it's school drop-off, weekend road trips, or your daily commute. We have the right vehicle for you and your family.
With trusted brands, affordable prices, and the team that treats you like family, finding your next car has never been so easy.
We pride ourselves on personal attention and quality service. Bassett Motors, where our customers send their friends.
Yeah, U.S. Cattlemen is a member organization that each member has a vote in anything we do with policy. We're representing the independent cattleman or the cow-calf guy or an independent feeder or whatever. We like to support the independent producer. We're talking about mandatory ID. We're talking about cool. We're talking about all the legislation that's going to be coming down with the new administration. There's going to be lots of moving and shaking. So always check us out at our website, uscattleman.org.
I'm $27,000 in credit card debt.
You have to radically do something different, because if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting.
Now's not the time to be doing math. The time to be doing math was when we didn't go into $200,000 of debt.
If you are freaked out and you're stuck in these debt payments and you think it has to be part of your life, it doesn't.
We are ladies of another view. Join us every weekday morning at 9:00 a.m. as we discuss the big topics from North Dakota, the nation, and around the world.
We chat with everyone from celebrities and medical professionals to politicians, local business owners, and neighbors about the topics and stories that affect all of us.
We are unscripted and uncensored real news from real people. So join us every weekday morning for Ladies of Another View on Beth.
Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for sticking through those commercial breaks. Again, Patrick Hart here with my two good friends, Jamie Selzler, our North Dakota DNC committee man, and I'm just going to call you my good friend, Trygve Hammer. Trygve,
I'll take that.
Did we do 19 parades last cycle?
We did a lot.
I have a little bit of fear of missing out not being on the campaign trail for you, so I'm glad you're able to be here with us today. I saw it last week. You went down to Edgeley to look at the new big data center.
Well, didn't go down to look at the data center, met with a lot of Republicans down there. You heard about when the District 28 Republicans had their convention in Oaks, there were people there who wanted to have a discussion about power line going in to a data center. And so I ran for PSC in 2022. And an issue that I wasn't on my radar screen until then was the Summit carbon capture pipeline. And there was just it was that thing where North Dakota open for business seems to mean like these businesses can come in from out of state and do what they want. And so they were going on and surveying without permission. People didn't want these carbon pipelines going through their property. And then there was the fact that Julie Fedorchak just happened to have land in Oliver County where the CO2 would be injected. And it was not fair to mention that because, oh, this was long before, but but it's really a landowners' rights issue. It's really a right-of-way kind of issue and an access issue. And it's not just data centers. It's everything that, can exercise eminent domain and take a piece of your land and put something on it.
Many years ago, as a farmer in the Northern Red River Valley, the railroad came through and they cut a strange curve out of a section of land that my great-grandparents owned. That railroad's now defunct, and that railroad has been taken out of there, and that land is converted into tillable acreage 80 years later. I'm wondering what the end game with these data centers are. We have reclamation processes for mine lands. We have reclamation for, power plants that shut down. Have you guys heard of anything on reclamation after these data centers are gone, after their useful life?
I have not. I think that their focus, and this started with Doug Burgum when he was governor, just trying to bring in every possible data center they could. I don't think that anyone at least that's in a position to actually make these decisions is thinking about that stuff. I think they're focused on one thing and one thing only, which is appeasing these huge corporations, these AI companies that own the data centers. These data centers don't generate that many jobs long term. They do maybe in the short term when you're building them, but you're not even actually building these. They're mostly prefab that are being shipped in from elsewhere with people that are being shipped in from elsewhere. A data center that's massive actually doesn't take that many employees to run. And I know a little bit what I'm talking about. I worked at Amazon for 20 years, and part of my job there was, understanding what the data centers were for, how we were using them, siting them near where one of my offices were. And the reality is that the data centers are really expensive. They drive up costs for energy, long-term in terms of infrastructure. They do not provide any major long-term incentives for things like property taxes. And they just cost a lot of money for tax dollars coming in. We talk about, people don't like, they hear the word welfare. They don't like welfare. Folks who are maybe getting a little bit of extra money to put food on the table. That is nothing compared to the welfare that data centers get and other big businesses get in North Dakota, just to try to bring jobs here that don't actually bring that many jobs in the first place.
The thing that really gets me is it seems like there's no proactive community buy-in, that a lot of these data centers are getting cited or being courted to come in, and all of a sudden it's they're going to start breaking ground and there hasn't been a community meeting yet. I think of the data center in North Fargo. It seems like that just got sprung on that community at the last moment as the backhoes were in the field ready to start doing dirt work. Are people upset about local control? What did they say down in Edgeley? What was their main concerns?
Yeah, well, local control is what it really comes down to in the end. And what I said there was, we have this thing, especially in like urban combat, where when you're stacking up and going in to take a building, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. You go in and you do it right, because that's a lot quicker. And if you do the opposite of that, you're running in. We call that running to your death. So we don't need to be running to our death to build all of this stuff that fast. You can grow slowly. You don't have to grow super fast. And these companies are all so leveraged now, and the private equity market is starting to look a little bit shaky. So if this bubble bursts, it's going to affect the entire stock market. It's going to affect the entire economy. And better to walk in and put things up in a responsible way than to go running in and just throw these data centers down everywhere. And I think when these outside entities look at North Dakota, what they see is this place with a bunch of land and more cattle than people. And so they don't really even think about the people when they're coming in there. They're just thinking about, oh yeah, I can get this land and I can put that there and we'll figure out the rest later.
I can't think of a more resource other than our children that's more valuable in North Dakota than our land. Like, that's not coming back. It's not getting bigger.
Yeah.
What price do you think these have on locals? Like, we got out-of-state contractors coming in, a limited amount of long-term employees to run these facilities. A huge amount of electrical footprint is getting given to these. We're hearing that we're promised there's no rate increases down the road. However, we're seeing the Public Service Commission, where Julie's formerly from, just rubber stamp these rate increases that all of our citizens are feeling. Jamie, so you have some information in this arena. Is self-powering these an option?
I mean, not really. They require a huge amount of power. I mean, a large data center is going to take up the same amount of electricity as an entire city the size of Bismarck is. And the reason you need so much power is you have to cool these facilities, because you have tens of thousands of computers in there. That's why people don't understand why they take so much electricity. Those obviously heat up. Think about the computer you have in your home office or in the living room, or whatever. Like, it gets hot. And imagine having thousands of those next to each other. And so you need electricity to cool them. And that ultimately is what is going to drive up the usage and the costs. Where I think people have real concerns is that you do not want government picking and choosing winners. And what happens with these data centers and other businesses is that the government, North Dakota state government, gets to go in and pick and choose winners, and not just pick and choose them, but start giving money to these folks, giving money to incentivize certain businesses. You're choosing them to win, which means there might be another small business who's already here, a local person who's been there their whole life working hard, who can't grow their business because your member of Congress, your public service commissioner, your legislator is go along, get along, picking winners. And when we talk about what conservatism is, I think true actual conservatism, which maybe I would even include myself in here, is government get out of the way and let people live. Let people have their freedom and their choice and do what they want to be successful. Government has a role in making sure that things are treated fairly. We have gone off the deep end in North Dakota when we have these data centers being built that government's pushing and incentivizing that are going to do nothing except hurt the people who've lived in those communities their entire lives and would like to see their kids and their grandkids grow up there as well.
What brings it back to me is, who are we serving by building these? We're not serving local business startups. These aren't typically, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the people building these aren't from North Dakota. These are outside corporations coming in. So are we beholden to them? And again, of course, the corporate welfare, and so we can say that, right? But what does that mean? Let's break this down. Property tax reductions?
Yep, not paying property tax.
How about the roads? I saw Vern Thompson, our ag commissioner, was standing in a rut the size of half of his body yesterday. Obviously, there's road restrictions on and people are skirting them. But the counties, the townships have to pay for those. Definitely not the investors of these data centers. So I guess I would really like to say, again, I'm leery of these out-of-state big entities coming in. We saw last week that nationally they're allowing mining rights up in the boundary waters. And I saw that, and then I started reading about it. It's a company from Chile. What are we doing letting them go up there? And I want to, bring it back. Let's, bring forward the economy by helping North Dakota businesses grow. I guess from there, you guys, as a local contractor, I can't find enough people to work. That's my issue. These data centers are coming in. They're going to be self-ran. I don't see any positivity to it. But also, I don't want to stand in the way of development. It seems like North Dakota isn't the only place that's doing this. It's happening nationally. Have you guys heard any national pushback, or do you know anyone that lives up by the data center in Williston that's been operating for a couple of years?
I was up there last cycle and talked to some folks, and the big concern there was the noise. And I believe that's a crypto mining operation up there.
Yeah.
And so from what I understand, they actually need even more cooling or are louder for some reason. But you see a lot of convergence here where, like your boundary routers example, it's not just left-wing environmentalists who are worried about that. There's conservatives that are worried about that. They're like, what they see is we can't get kids school lunch. And I've heard this from conservative Republicans at events I've gone to. So, but we can spend all this money on those other things. So they are too big to fail, and we're too small to matter.
You touched on school lunch. Can we pick up on that where we get back from commercial break? Thanks, guys. Back after this one.
Hey, y'all, it's Trent on the loose. I want to tell you, Lady Blue and I, we got a lot of miles together. But you know what? You and I got a lot of miles together as well. And all I want to do is bring to you the information on how we maintain a domestic supply of food and fuel for future generations. I'm going to continue to travel the world and unearth the stories that make it possible that we can live in a free United States of America.
Welcome to Arrowhead Cleaners. Newly renovated, modernized, and ready to make your cleaning needs hassle-free. From commercial and residential wash and fold laundry services to the latest in professional dry cleaning techniques, we are dedicated to your unique needs, offering alterations, fabrications, and even custom hat making. So whether you're a busy professional, a family on the go, or even a rodeo champion, Arrowhead Cleaners is here to take your things from messed up to dressed up. Now celebrating our 64th year in Arrowhead Plaza. Are you dealing with arthritis, nerve and back pain, dry skin, or superficial wounds, but found no relief? Give Stewart's Natural Health a try. For over 4 decades, Stewart's Natural Health has been helping people and animals with herbal and natural oil lotions, ointments, and creams with a mission to help you relieve pain and feel your best using the power of nature. Discover the safe, drug-free solution to your pain, guaranteed or your money back. Visit stewartsnatural.health today.
We are the St. Mary Sisters. We are building a new facility here in Bismarck, North Dakota, for the sake of training young women to be courageous teachers in this state. The sisters will educate the younger generation to be fully alive through truth and discipline. The sisters' life of devotion and joy will make a positive difference in your community. Check out what we're up to, see what's going on, and join our mission to make a difference in the lives of the children of North Dakota.
Ashley, North Dakota is where life moves a little slower, but never gets dull. From hunting, camping, and fishing to safe streets where kids can be kids, this is the best of small town living. And Ashley offers everything you need, from healthcare to hardware to countless ways to stay active. Here, we've invested in our future with major upgrades to roads, parks, and education. Whether you're here for the day or here for life, you'll find Ashley's where you ought to be.
There's never been a better time to rediscover the style, reliability, and all-season, all-terrain fun of the all-new Nissan lineup at the new and improved Ryan Nissan. Whether it's the sleek and stylish Murano, the adventure-ready Pathfinder, or the reimagined, ready-for-anything 2026 Rogue, the all-new Ryan Nissan has the vehicle of your dreams at a price perfect for any budget. It's time to rediscover your passion for the road. It's time to rediscover the all-new Ryan Nissan, engineered to endure.
Well, I appreciate you guys sticking with us. This is our last segment. I'm just going to keep introducing these guys. I'm with my good friends, Jamie Selzler, Trygve Hammer. Trygve's running for U.S. House. Jamie Selzler is master of all things, if I can give you that. I like to ingratiate, right? There's nothing
You're
really
good
wrong
at
with
it.
that.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I'll take it.
So really quick, last segment, we ended with school lunches. I don't want to spend a tremendous amount of time on this, but let's talk about my experience really quick to give some background. I grew up, we only had the school lunch option. Small class B school, 15, 20 kids in my class, which I think is pretty normal in North Dakota. I've since talked to my superintendent now serving that area, and she said the salad bar is phenomenal. Unlike the brown container of ranch we used to have. However, raising kids in the city, there's a la carte, there's pizza, there's 2 or 3 milks and soda, and that's not what I grew up with. So there's a bit of a disconnect. But school lunch petitions just got handed in, overwhelming amount. What do you guys think? School lunch is a good thing, or is feeding kids the worst thing that the government can do?
Yeah, well, Jamie and I, we grew up eating school lunch at Velva, at the public school there. And I was out in Granville. They have a good school lunch program. But the thing I became aware of there is that there's more kind of rural poverty. There are more kids who are hungry, coming to school hungry than we realize. And most teachers in their drawer have, granola bars or snacks for these kids. And some of them, that school meal and the Backpack Buddies program or something along that line is very important to them. They're hungry if they're not getting that. The kind of kids that don't look forward to Christmas break because they don't know that they're gonna be food insecure during that time. So why not start there? Because I think if we have kids who are engaged in school, who have been fed, then later on we're not going to have to deal later on with the problems that come from them not getting as educated, not being all they can be.
I think it's important to remember that for many kids who come from homes without means, the school lunch or breakfast is their only truly nutritious meal they're going to get for the day. And it's normal to want to say, like, I paid for my kids' lunch and they should pay for theirs as well. But you could. And the reality is that making sure the kids are fed is going to make sure that their minds are in better shape to learn. And whether you have kids in school or not doesn't matter. Who do you think your future doctor is going to be, or the nurse, or the pharmacist, or your mechanic, or the person who comes and fixes your plumbing? They all start in our public schools. The vast majority of them start in our public schools in North Dakota. And so you have a vested interest in your own longevity in having kids be fed. The fact that 57,000 North Dakotans signed those petitions that only needed just over 30,000. And I tell you, if they had kept collecting signatures for 6 more months, they would have had 200,000 people sign it. This is going to win overwhelmingly in a landslide. Again, an example of the Republican legislators being entitled and having enough power, they thought that they didn't have to do this. And now the voters are speaking up and saying, no, we want kids to eat. We want kids to be able to have a good education. And they're going to see what happens this fall when you don't listen to what North Dakotans have to say.
I run into the Capitol every session and testify on a handful of bills. Given testimony the last 2 cycles for a bill that our own Lori Beth Hager, as a Democrat, brought forth for school lunches. I feel like she championed it. This last cycle, there was 2 bills, but I get behind this. I want them all to be fed. My kids go to South Bismarck, a school called Wachter. It's a very mixed bag of economic availability of kids that go to that school. And for me, it's not only about feeding the kids, but it's about bullying. We have kids whose parents have adjusted gross income, I'm sure, $250,000 or more, standing in lunch lines with kids that, her parents aren't of means, that live in a trailer park. And that's okay. I don't want there to be bullying between the two based on who has to give a tray of food back because their lunch account is balanced. And also on that negative balance, those accounts roll over from year to year. So I don't necessarily see the huge deal with carrying over a -$6 or -$12 balance.
I also imagine for school districts, it's hard to budget if you don't know who's going to pay for the lunch or not.
Sure.
And so at least if after this passes, schools will be able to much more likely prepare their budgets, knowing exactly what their incoming is going to be for their school lunch program, which ultimately might allow them to run more efficiently.
Sure. Are you hearing anything about this on the campaign trail? Are people talking about this?
They are talking about this. So it's just one of those things where, again, people are not feeling heard. And I think I said before the break that conservative Republicans are talking about this issue, how, the state legislature can't see their way to pay for this, but then these big companies can come in and get all these breaks. And it is a definite issue out there.
What else are you hearing out? I've seen your Facebook. If you haven't followed Trygve Hammer, please give him a like, give him a share, check him out. What are the big issues? What are people talking about?
So in my race, what people are really talking about is three things. One is we don't have a voice. No one is speaking up for us. No one is being that check and balance. And then that's the second thing, is that Congress is not doing its job. Congress is given the power in Article 1 of the Constitution to levy tariffs, to declare war, and to approve warfare. So, but they are purposely not doing that. They're saying, no, we're not going to consider this, which means we don't have a voice in these big decisions like going to war with Iran. And then the final thing is, and I was really surprised to hear this and down in Edgeley, is there's too much money in politics. And when I hear someone say that, you're like, yeah, you're preaching to the choir. Yeah, money is, anyone who's run for federal office, knows that money is a thing. And I know I'm going to bring in much less money than Julie Fedorchak. And I find it interesting that she had that ad that she ran that looked like her ad in a restaurant, her campaign ad from the first time around, but it was paid for by the U.S. House of Representatives. She has, an over $1 million war chest. She could easily afford that streaming ad out of her campaign funds, but no, let's use taxpayer dollars. And people are sick of that. And they feel like they're represented by, or not represented by, folks who feel entitled to that money. Like, I can do it, so it's the right thing to do. And, so folks are just kind of tired of that stuff, and they want to see Congress work, and they'd like to see the big money get out of it.
I would actually push you back. I don't know if people know that ad was paid for by them, and that this apparatus just allows people to do that.
Yep.
I've seen this grift lately that just seems to be acceptable in our government. I hear all the time, and I'll make the joke about the George Soros check that pays people to protest down at the Capitol during No Kings rally. I've never gotten a check. I don't know anyone who has. That couldn't be further from the truth in my experience. As a matter of fact, as a high-level Dem volunteer, Jamie, a DNC committee man, I know you know that a lot of money goes into volunteering for those high positions in the party. But yeah.
I think people are talking also about high costs at the pump, at the grocery store, for their housing. And I think they voted for change because they thought things were too expensive in the last administration, and they're finding them even more expensive now. There is no end in sight. And so that's why Democrats are standing up and saying, if you truly want change, give someone else a chance. And that doesn't mean you have to vote for Democrats forever, but listen to candidates now. Listen to someone like Trygve and say, I'm going to give them a chance. And if I don't like him, I'll vote him out. But give someone a chance to actually prove to you that either you're wrong about your perception or that they can actually bring much needed change. But right now, costs are too expensive and people are feeling it, and it's going to get worse probably before it gets better.
And you're going to keep getting the same thing if politicians feel like they are in a safe seat. if they feel like, they're going to be there no matter what, like they can buy this election, then you're not going to get any change because they're going to feel even safer coming back the next cycle.
Affordability is a big thing. I hear about it all the time with these costs going up. And I think there's kind of two people in America. There's two segments. There's people that make above the means and they see their portfolios expanding, their equity in their house going up. And there's people that just simply can't get by, that can't afford another pair of boots to go to work. So I really hope affordability is continued to be pushed forward throughout this election cycle. Have you guys feel the pinch on anything specific lately? And you go to the grocery store and you think, holy smokes.
Ground beef is $9 a pound.
Holy smokes.
And I try to eat healthy. I try to eat lean ground beef. It's $9 a pound. I drove here from Fargo today, where it's $3.50 a gallon for gas, and I think it'll likely be $5 before we know it. Yeah, I'm feeling the pinch, as many folks are, and I'm doing okay in life. It's not like it's causing a massive harm for me, which means that there are folks out there who are really struggling, and they expected to not be at this point.
Trygve, property tax was a big thing last cycle. You hearing anything about that or the relief that we've been pushed?
I really haven't been hearing much of that out on the campaign trail yet. Maybe I haven't, because there's bigger issues and like the land issues we've been talking about. So no, I haven't heard a whole lot. The one thing I have heard is that now cities are raising the values because they, instead of raising the percentage, they raise the value of your home and tax you on that. So your property taxes go up anyway. So, sometimes there are unintended consequences of the things that we legislate. And I think that's one of them we're having from this last round of property tax measures.
Well, thanks for touching on that really quick. And with that, you guys, I think our time is almost coming to an end. I have to first of all thank my guest, Jamie Selzler. You came in from Fargo. Trygve Hammer, you're down from Minot. Thanks for coming to do this with us today. This has been kind of fun. Of course, I got a shout out to Beck for giving us the opportunity and for Gary Emeneth for giving me that as well. Overall, you guys, this is what I would like to tell you. I see a lot of people that are unhappy with the track of politics here in the state and nationally. And I would just ask you, if you're unhappy with your government, if you're unhappy with your local elected officials, just give someone else a shot. I hope you saw that none of us here on this panel today are extreme. And I think a lot of our candidates that the party has endorsed and have gone through the process are very grounded and ready to serve. With that, I guess, thanks for your time. Appreciate you being here.